I don't believe anything can really prepare you for the pain. It pushes you to the very edge of yourself. But I'm convinced, behind the curtain of grief, incredible stories are being written. That's the surprising ending that I never expected. Hope. July 2011, I found out that my mom had stage 3 breast cancer. She had been experiencing excruciating pain in her body. The disease was taking its toll. The rest of that year was a slow and painful journey. My family rallied together to take care of my mom. We knew she was getting weaker. It was hard to tell if it was the treatment or the disease. We worked, we prayed, we waited. I'll never forget those months. They felt like an eternity. Looking back, it was all too brief. My mom spoke from the heart. Whether she was praying or talking to people, her words were always genuine. I knew I wanted to preserve at least some of her story. On January 10th, 2012, I recorded about 30 minutes of audio, about as long as she had the strength to speak. What she said that day marked me for life.
Just no matter what, you never lose your first love. Seek His face. No matter how people will put it, you see His face and it do not let other people determine what is success in the Lord. You will truly know Him and His deep love for you and love Him back. That's success. Never lose heart, never lose sight. No matter what kind of assignment you're on, not the size of ministry,
Never lose heart, never lose sight.
Never lose heart, never lose first love, never lose first love.
That was the last real conversation I ever had with my mom. Her pain became unmanageable and she was sent to hospice where she spent several days asleep. On Monday, January 16th, 2012, my mom went to be with the Lord. The day I interviewed my mom, she told me with tears in her eyes that she wasn't afraid. I saw this look in her eyes through the tears, a look of expectation, a look that said, I can't wait to see my Savior's face. I remember being astonished to see that light in her eyes. It was like I could feel fear and despair being covered by hope. It made death seem so powerless. On the day of her passing, I was sitting in the waiting room of the hospice where she was. I saw a pamphlet on the table talking about the stages of grief. It was like watching a weather forecast for an oncoming storm, and knowing it was coming didn't make it any easier. I could probably count on both hands the number of times I'd cried in my life before my mom died. And I think I broke that record in 1 week, just waking up and going to bed. I journaled, I prayed, I hung out with people to distract myself. I went to grief counseling. I knew what the stages were. I knew I had to go through them. It was so painful. I just wanted to make it through. And more than once, I questioned if I would. I held on. I held on when it felt like the cloud of grief would never leave. I would hear those words in my head again. Never lose heart. Never lose sight. I just kept believing, kept trusting God, kept on going. Never been more outside of my comfort zone than when I was in the grieving process. The whole time, I just remember yearning to feel normal. I heard this phrase in grief counseling. Things won't ever be the way they were, and that's okay. Somewhere along the line, I think I stopped trying to make things normal, just focused on making it through the next day. It's easy to say hold on to hope. When you're in the middle of it, it's hard to remember what it feels like to be happy, much less hopeful. I know everyone has a different experience, but for me, the transition was slow. The healer was time and faith. Memories of the past never stopped flooding into my mind. But as time went on, the pain lessened, And soon enough, it changed. Fondness, happiness, the same memories that used to feel like a curse, they became precious again. Of course, I miss my mom when I think about her life, when memories cross my mind, when I recall the things she said to me. But just as equally as I miss her, I feel empowered by the way she lived her life, even to the very last breath. She never gave up. She never stopped thinking about others before herself. She never stopped putting God first. She never lost hope. That knowing, that truth, that courage, it gives me a confidence I can't explain, an unrelenting hope. She always told me that all she wanted out of life was to be faithful, to run the race of life well, to have no regrets on the day she met Jesus. She used those phrases to encourage me to live my life the best I could, to do all for the glory of God. In her going, I feel those words lifting me up and pushing me forward. For anyone struggling today, my heart goes out to you. Never lose heart. Never lose sight.